Hello, everyone. Welcome to HITalks podcast. I'm your host, Syed, and this is a podcast where we talk to business executives, industry leaders, and thought leaders to chat and share their story to help you craft yours. Today, we have Jamie Dunne, the director of Hayes in Cyber and Technology Division, and he'll be sharing his story how he came to Canada in 2019. He has made significant strides. He started his career just with humble odd jobs, and over the years, he got a role at Hayes as an account manager. Within 4 years, he became a director, which is pretty darn impressive. So I'm super excited to be with Jamie today to get to know his story. Welcome to the show, Jamie. How are you doing?
I'm not too bad, Syed. How are you going?
I'm doing fine. So, as I have said in the introduction, I'm super glad that you took some time out to be here with us. I'm sure the audience and listeners will gain tons of value from your experience and your stories. So, why don't we start with some rapid fire questions just to get things going? So, tell me about your favorite vacation spot.
It'd have to be Mexico. Nice,
Nice.
sunny, cheap, good tequila. Definitely Mexico.
Perfect. Hits all the desires. What about favorite book that you are currently reading or have read?
Yeah, that's probably very cliche of someone in sales, but Never Split the Difference. Chris Voss, the FBI negotiator.
Excellent.
So, took a good few takeaways from that one from reading it.
Perfect. What about your cuisine, favorite food and cuisine?
Probably Thai food, to be honest.
Thai food,
Yeah,
yeah. I
if there was a
recently got
family, got
into
into
Thai
it.
food.
Yeah, it's good, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's pretty. I love it. My wife been taking me every week to a Thai room brand, and we
Nice.
we love it. What about any popular figure you would love to have a dinner, and why would that be?
Yeah, so I struggled with this one because I'd like to go with Roy Keane. And I know like a lot of people listening here probably won't know who that is, but he's a former Irish international soccer player. But
Yeah,
and the reason I just think he'd be good fun to go out for dinner with and have a few drinks. To be quite honest with you, like
yeah.
I know a lot of people would say political people and stuff, but no, definitely Roy Keane.
Exceptional leader as well for
Yeah,
his days at Man U.
exactly.
I'm a big fan of Man U, so I follow him throughout. So yeah, no, perfect, good. I think that's I would probably say the same thing. So yeah, no, let's dive into your story. So I was, when I was doing research, I saw a pretty impressive start in your career. You were in Irish Defense Forces. So tell us about that little bit. How did your experience there shape your approach, who you are today? What were your learnings there?
Yeah, honestly, it was probably the making of me, to be quite honest with you. It helped me grow up, it helped me mature. It gets you out of family home, which a lot of parents would be very happy to get their kids out of home sooner rather than later. So, but yeah, it definitely it helps you mature so much. You go away, you're away from your family for 6 months at a time. You're training with a group of lads, girls that you just form a bond with. You need to make relationships with these people because like these are your family for the next 6, 8 months, whatever it might be, whether you're overseas in training, whatever it is. But yeah, no, definitely it teaches you to succeed in any sort of environment. That's what the army is all about. They drop you into kind of unknown territories, and then they're saying, look, we've given you the tools to survive, so go and survive. And I feel like that's definitely been pivotal to kind of relocating to Canada, being dropped in an environment I've never been to, and then sort of just figuring out as I went along, to be quite honest with you.
When was this was your early 20s, or when were you in Irish Defense
Like
Force?
like probably early mid-teens, like
Mid-teens.
17.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
so kind of fresh out of school, straight in. Thought about the university path. Applied for a couple of universities to do engineering and stuff like that, and then I realised that I didn't really like engineering too much, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, now I went into the army, then ended up finishing off kind of the education aspect of what the army entails, and yeah, it was great. It was, as I said, it just helps you
Yeah,
grow up so much, and it gives you the tools to do a lot with your life. It makes you more personable, a bit more outgoing, and then yeah, it keeps you healthy and fit as well. I will say that's another perk of the job.
yeah. I feel like these type of, especially if you go in army, it probably gets you. It's hard, but it gets you shortcut to life. Like skills that you learn in your
Exactly.
20s, you just learn them quickly within in your teens and maybe touching 20s, where other people
Yeah.
would be like, because they're not put in such a, because it's designed to be hard, and your brain tends to get better and optimize its way on when you face hardship. So pretty impressive.
Exactly.
which I'll touch on later how this helped you, in your career. But let's start with your Canadian journey. So you
Yeah.
landed in 2019. Let's go back. This is 2019. You landed. What was in your mind? How did you, plan to conquer this landscape when you landed here?
Yeah, it's funny. I actually wasn't going to go to Canada.
Oh wow!
I was gonna move to China and teach English.
Wow!
So we could have had a lot of Chinese children running around with an Irish accent, but
Yeah.
we didn't. So where I moved to Canada because it was quite like it was easier to get a visa to kind of than other countries. So came over, landed on I think it was the 10th of May 2019, and I actually flew into Hamilton. There was direct flights from Dublin to Hamilton. So my introduction to Canada was Hamilton. So we got the bus straight in, and I was actually staying in a hostel at the time, like just in I think it was like around 18, 20 bed hostel room. There was a lot of other people there that had just relocated from different countries. I notably remember a lot of Australians, people from Asia. So it was,
Wow.
it was quite good. You just interact with a lot of people there. But in terms of my plan, honestly, I didn't really have one. I came over, I just sort of backed myself to find some work. Like went out every morning. I'd get up. I'm an early riser anyway, but I'd get up, put on a suit, put on a shirt, put on a pair of slacks, and just go handing out resumes. To be quite honest with you, until until I
Until
found
it lands
something
on.
that'd be
Yeah.
worried. So yeah,
Yeah, no, I remember like for when we came, it was similar experience where me and my friend would just walk into downtown area and just drop in resumes all the time just to get a call from some store. One of those time he dropped all those resumes and he found out the phone number
was
the one
wrong.
on the resume it was a typo, so all
Oh God.
effort went to waste. But no, this is the one thing that people don't understand. A lot of time, no one really has a plan. That's
Hmm.
and you just go out and just hustle day in and day out.
Yeah,
Which when I talk to newcomers, they're all about thinking, "Oh, this is what I'm gonna do." Like they do less of action than a lot of planning and all that stuff,
yeah,
which sometimes demotivates you because if you're not putting some actions to just go out there and put resume like you have done. You won't get confidence. You won't get results. So which is pretty impressive. And then I think you started doing odd jobs. How was that tenure? Like coming from I guess a better life in Ireland, you're probably much more comfortable and starting again with odd jobs and this and that. Like how did you handle that kind of mentally? How were you comfortable with that? And what was your aspiration? Like what kept you going in those days?
yeah. I actually really enjoyed it. To be quite honest with you, like I was working for this non for profit at one point as well. Like just looking at military expenditure
Mm.
during during the early days. Was only a contract during the election, so I was looking at that. Then I was out doing a bit of labouring, like underpinning, like digging out basements and stuff like that in the cold and whatnot. It's not too bad, but I'd rather kind of be sitting in a cushy office is what
Yeah.
we do right now. But yeah, like the honestly, I really enjoyed it. I kind of miss the aspect of manual work,
Yeah.
despite me loving my job right now. There'd be, especially when the weather's nice. It's great when you look out your window and you see nothing but sunshine. But when there's snow out there, obviously I probably don't have the same feelings. But I do. I genuinely miss sort of that, like going out, doing a bit of like labouring, going home,
Mm.
getting up, doing it again, and yeah, it's just kind of hard work. But yeah, it's something I really enjoy and something I probably deep down really miss.
Yeah, no, I feel the same. Sometimes you like looking at the screen all day and this and that. It just gets to you, and you just
Mm-hmm.
wanna
Oh,
be
100%.
out there.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah, no, go ahead.
No, go on ahead.
No, I was saying like, how long was this duration of you doing odd job? I think you did soccer coaching as well. Like, was it like when 2019 up till how many years were you doing that? When till you landed at Hayes?
Actually wasn't doing it too long. I was doing the soccer coaching while still working at Hayes because I actually just enjoyed soccer coaching.
Mm,
Like it was with North York Academy, Brian
nice.
over there. He's a great guy. He's a great coach as well. So anyone that does have any children that are interested in going to into soccer, definitely
Yeah.
hit up Brian. He's brilliant at what he does. But yeah, I started in Hayes the end of November. So from May till November, I was just doing random work
Mm,
basically. So not that I got lucky, I found it quite quick, but
mm,
you kind of in that space you bounced around a lot of work interviewed a lot of places because it was just, you know yourself, like people, they say they have work for you in construction and then there's no work, then you get let
Yeah.
go, then you have to find more works. It was
Especially winter days, you get let go, and the cycle.
exactly.
Yeah, you need to figure out what to do for like majority of the time is winter. Only construction happens in summer, and then you're off. I know, I get that. And I mean, I would probably talk to you about the soccer coach and stuff after, because my son, I'm really interested in him. I was looking into different soccer schools, so it's good to
Yeah,
know. So we'll see. Maybe Brian can help us there.
yeah, definitely.
Okay, and when you look back, there must be some, I know you were not going with any plan or anything, but you must have some habits that daily habits that made who you are today during these times when you were, just hustling and all that.
Hmm.
What would you say about like any habits that you can share people who are in this stage, whether it be, early riser or hitting certain targets in a day, like
Or
dropping 50 resumes in a day, or like what was your daily tiny habits that you're building up that were your goal at those days to hit
yeah,
the targets?
yeah. So like the as you said, like I am an early riser. Even now, I still get up at around 10 to 5 a.m. just to kind of start my day. Yeah, like I think people when they first come to Canada and stuff like that, like you're coming over, you're fresh, you've got kind of your bank account is still intact, so you still have all the money that you came over with.
Yeah.
But that you quickly see that dwindles away, and I was quite cognizant of that. So like day one, I got off the plane, I went literally got my SIN number, got my phone. The next day, I was up at 5 looking for jobs again because like at the end of the day, your money does dwindle a lot when you're looking for accommodation, you're new to the country. So I think if I was anyone, I'd say make sure that like you're not picky in terms of the work you do, because that's the benefit that I had. That if someone said, Jamie, do you want to go and underpin this house? Do you want to go and put up this clean room or drywall, whatever it might be? I said yes, as long as it was paying me to do it. So it was, I think a lot of people can be a bit picky in terms of what the work they pick up. And then before they know it, they're kind of behind the eight ball and they haven't got enough funds to continue to stay in Canada, and then they end up feeling like a failure, which then is a catalyst to everything else. But yeah, now that's I think my habit, the best traits I had was being up early before anyone in that hostel room and making sure that when I was out there that I was trying to get the resumes in, and if someone did call me, I always said yes. I'd go there no matter where it was, whether it was interviewing in North York, Brampton, Scarborough. I didn't care. I'd make sure that I got there in time for that interview.
And I feel like this is where, I mean, I could be wrong, but your military mindset and training comes in place where you were just really, you didn't really care too much about the output. You're just like, I just need to hustle, wake up
Mm-hmm.
early, go out and, just get hustling. Just whatever day comes, you just do it. If you have an interview, you go there. If you have a, whatever opportunity knocks at your door, you say, okay, let's get to it. So a lot of people, they tend to, which you're right, like they tend to be picky, or they just say, "Oh, I'm more of back home. I was a designer, so I cannot do this. I'm looking for this type of role." Which, unfortunately, in Canada, you have to just do everything till you kind of like optimize your scope. Like you can
Exactly.
niche down what you can get into. Which is where I want to get to with you. So how? So you're doing all this for a couple in a short duration. Then how did you figure out that you would? I assume you had no recruitment background or this type of background before. How did you end up at Hayes? Like, what was your thought process there, and what did you do to get here?
Yeah, like
Just starting off.
yeah, of course. Like again, like I don't think anyone grows up wanting to be a recruiter. Well, very very few people grow up wanting to be a recruiter anyway.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people, I kind of fell into the industry.
Mhm.
I was playing soccer again, football. Soccer's been very good to me. But one of someone at the soccer club actually worked for Hayes at the time and recommended,
Nice.
said maybe you might be actually good at recruitment. And I said again, that mentality of just saying yes to work kind of paid dividends, because my mother back home in Ireland, she was in HR and recruiting over the years, and I never really knew what it was, to be quite honest with you. I just knew that's something my mother done. But yeah, again, that mindset of just saying yes to anything that I thought that I could try and do it, and that's how I kind of got into it. Someone just said come in for an interview, done the interview, and then yeah, it went well. But yeah, that's, as I said, I just kind of fell
Yeah.
into it. It wasn't like I came over here to be a career recruiter or anything like that, because But yeah, that's pretty much it. I wish it was more exciting, but
No, but
that's literally how it happens.
this is the reality. That's how things happen, you know. Like
Yeah,
the best thing you were trying to do without knowingly is you were connecting with people, like joining the
exactly.
soccer club, for example. A lot of
Hmm.
people shy away from joining these type of clubs when they come to Canada, or they think that's their last priority. Let me get the bread home, and then I'm gonna look into these things. Whereas if you try to mix, your hobbies, you will find people there. You never know who you find at your soccer field or whatever
100%.
sport you like, tennis or whatever it is. So that's a good hack for people. Just connect with as many people as you can.
Yeah, networking is key. Like
And network
you
in
gotta
this
make
space,
connections.
yeah.
You
So
know,
you meet people in a soccer pitch. It's different network than going to a networking event, which is
exactly.
icebreaker. It
It's
takes
more
time to
organic.
build a rapport, yeah.
Yeah.
And let's switch to sort of like job seekers. I know like, nowadays it's been quite a challenge. It's a difficult market for sure for job seekers out there. So I'm gonna ask you a few questions around that area. So let's start with a starter question. What's your general piece of advice for job seekers today? What should they be doing in order to get in the roles they want?
Yeah, of course. Like I think where a lot of people kind of fall down at the moment is resume writing. Like I think people when they're writing resumes, they put down they just have this one generic resume that they put towards every single job, and then
Yeah,
what happens is they're applying to a certain position that requires a certain skill that they know they have, but their resume does not relay that to the recruiter or the hiring manager. Does not get you kind of a foot in the door, and that's what a resume is. It's
yeah,
basically get you the foot in the door. But so find what that unique selling point is. Look at the job descriptions before you apply, because you'd be surprised with the amount of people that we see coming through our applications that clearly have not read the job description. A common trait you see is you advertise a project manager position for an IT project manager, and you get a construction project manager applying for this position because they clearly haven't read the job description. So as a project manager, in that, just to use that job as a sort of an example, you require attention to detail when doing that, because and if you're not reading that, that doesn't kind of relay, it doesn't encourage then that recruiter or hiring manager to pass your resume on to the right department. It sort of just kind of puts you in a sort of a bad sticky situation. Yeah, like understand the organization that you apply for. So I think a lot of people don't understand what the organizations do before they apply, and that comes back to, it's great to have a template and a generic resume that you can use, but make sure that you're going through the job description, that you're kind of putting in that experience and looking for like what that hiring manager and what that organization looks for in you. And then of course I think the most unique selling point is once you're in the room, at the end of the day, interviewers are human.
yeah,
Like they want that personal touch. They want people to work with that they get on with. And I think we all forget that. I think we all forget that this is an interview, because at the end of the day, you're interviewing the client too. If you're a quality candidate, you're interviewing that client as much as they're interviewing you. If you're a good fit for them and they're a good fit for you, great. But I think the understanding what people's USPs are on paper, and then leveraging their personalities when in an interview to get that true.
mm,
Like, don't over explain stuff, but explain stuff to people what you've done over your career that is applicable to the job. I think storytelling is the best skill you can learn. And if you can understand and tell a good story about where your career has taken over the years, then you'll do well in any interview. So I'd say hone in on sort of upskilling yourself in storytelling, because a lot of people find it quite difficult. So try and tell a story about who you are, humanize yourself, and then talk about the technical aspects of the job that you have, the skills that you have that are applicable to that.
perfect. And how important? And this question, like even I get confused sometimes, but I wanted to know your opinion. Like nowadays with LinkedIn and all these tools, you can develop your own brand, and but it takes
Mhm.
a lot of time to do that. You have to post every day or like whatever, yeah, Twitter and X and all that stuff. But does it really work as someone on your side of things? Do you really appreciate if someone is putting time into personal branding, or you don't really? It's not that really important. Like, what is the verdict on you on your end on these things? Like personal branding, you get mixed opinion throughout the web, and different people
Mhm.
say different things. What's your take on that?
Yeah, like for me, I don't think anyone does enough of it. I think we all need to do more, because at the end of the day, we all work for these big corporations, we work for these organizations, but it comes back to people working with people. So at the end of the day, like when I'm looking for a candidate or a client is looking for a candidate, or I'm even looking for a client to work with, like, yes, we want kind of good logos, but at the end of the day, you want someone that's good to work with, you enjoy working with them. But again, it comes back to just working with people. Like people need to understand that if you're out there and you're putting your brand out there, develop your LinkedIn, share things that you find interesting, not that your organization is pushing on you to find interesting. Because at the end of the day, the LinkedIn is your own personal social media. That is your network, and it's your network to grow. That LinkedIn will still be your profile, whether you're at whatever company you will be further down the line. So invest time in LinkedIn, in my honest opinion. Also, from a kind of recruitment perspective, like for me and for hiring managers, it helps us to verify. It helps us to verify who people are. Because if someone's active on LinkedIn, you can see that this person's a real person. This person is interested in X, Y, Z. They have done X, Y, Z because here's public information that they're sharing. Where a lot of, like, especially in the technology space at the moment, where there's a lot of fraudulent candidates going around. So a lot of fraudulent candidates. So this helps you be authentic and real. Now, not just that cookie cutter resume that's sitting there and has the exact same experience as everything else. So the idea is definitely to build your own personal network, build your own personal brand, and remember that you're the employee, that you're a brand that people want to hire. People want to hire you, the companies that you worked for in the past. That's just obviously an added bonus. If you've worked for Google, Amazon, whatever it might be, they build your brand. Don't build Google's brand. They have a team that does that for you. So look after yourself.
I certainly agree to that as well. In this, like sometimes, a lot of people, it's a popular opinion, but a lot of job seekers don't implement it because it takes a lot of time. Like when it comes to personal branding, and you touched on tailoring your resume part, what's your opinion on how big this plays? Like if they study the company and they try to know what the company is all about, maybe spend like 15, 20 minutes about, if it's a public company, then you can see a lot about it. But if it's private, you can still learn a lot on their website and whatnot. Do you think, like when I talk to job seeker, they say like it's all about numbers game. I'm not going to spend too much time on doing all this stuff. I mean, they would do it, but it's just not practical. Let's say you want to apply to 100 roles, you're not going to read upon 100 companies, and it's just too much work for them. But in your opinion, does it add real value if they do it and then they apply, or it's not that much of a difference if they tailor the job to, for example, a construction project manager example, they're tailoring the job to the job description, the resume, sorry, to the job description, not learning much about the company and all that. They're just applying. How big of a difference would that play? Like, it's how important it is to just study the company as well, in your opinion?
I think it is quite important because, like, just to use a construction project manager for example as well, like if you're, let's say you've moved over here from Saudi and the climate in Saudi is quite hot, but the climate in Canada is quite cold, it's hot and cold, where it's not as consistent as it is in Saudi. So the materials that you use in Saudi are going to be different to the materials that you use over here in Canada due to kind of the external temperatures and whatnot. For all the hiring manager knows is that, okay, you've come from Saudi, you haven't used this material, that material, or whatever it might be, but yet you've done a project in Norway for this Saudi-based company that was required you to use cold materials that can withstand cold weather. But that's not written on your resume, but on all the hiring managers see the Saudi. So I would encourage people to put down, if they go on there and it is like you have done projects in different countries, but it is a Saudi based company or whatever, Irish based company, English based company, whatever, put that down. Like, put it down because you don't want to eliminate yourself because someone thinks that you've only worked with certain materials or certain tech stack, whatever it might be. And a lot of people do eliminate themselves based off that because it comes down to, again, people apply for volumes amount of jobs. And of course, it's a numbers game. The more you apply for, the chances you get is higher. But if you put out quality applications and your resume is kind of tailored towards your experience, once you've done it and the job description says it, put it down there. Like, don't shy away from it because some organizations don't use recruiters. And this is the benefit of using a recruiter. if I see a project manager that's worked in IT, I'll normally make sure I call them to see if they have that experience. And if they say, yeah, I have that experience, we'll talk in more detail about where they've done this. But some organizations, you'll apply to them directly, and they'll filter through your resume through a keyword and whatever sort of HCM they use, and then that'll come through as, okay, that person hasn't got X experience, that's eliminated. So make sure you are putting down the experience that is applicable to the job you're applying for. I always think quality over quantity is it's more work in terms of getting the applicants out. It's not as cookie cutter, it's not as quick, but you will get more hits and you will get more conversations. And then once you're in the room, use your skills, use your personality to sort of make those connections with the people that are interviewing.
Yeah, and I feel like this approach also kind of gives you an idea of like would you last long in this company. Your turnover tends to be less for the company and yourself. You don't job hop quicker because you took your time, put in a lot of work to make your resume, personal branding, knowing about the company. So you know what you're really getting into and you'll probably stay there for long term. At least, mess up your career in the long run if you're putting the quality work rather than quantity. Yeah, you got the job and then you find out, oh, I don't like the XYZ here or whatever. So no, that's some great points. In terms of, especially right now, it's cooling labor market, salary negotiation it's not that how it used to be in COVID days where it was employee, calling the shots. And it has, a little bit shift towards employer now. What tips can you give them to negotiate best salary in the current?
Of course, yeah. And you're right in saying COVID, that post COVID, everyone was just asking for whatever they wanted. Software developers asking for, with 1 year experience, asking for 120,000, 150,000 and getting it. And now, unfortunately, those people have now been laid off and they're struggling with the concept of salary negotiations. So I always tell people to obviously do your research to see what the market rate is saying. Like, don't undersell yourself, because at the end of the day, I'm still an employee as well. So like during those COVID times when people are asking for whatever, like the people that kind of leveraged that time, like fair play to them, they done it. But now it's starting to come back to bite them a bit. So kind of realign with what your expectations are. Like, be more realistic with yourself. Do some research. Like, usually, like say you're a software developer, you're coming out of university. All the people that you're friends with going through university, the majority of them are probably software developers at other organizations as well. Like, speak to those friends that you have good relationships with. Ask them what their compensation is. Like, compare your skill sets to what's out there in the market and what that market is paying them. Don't go in just because you were getting $120,000 at X company and now that company has laid you off and you've got 2 years experience, but this reputable company is over here is only paying 90. Like, don't, of course you're taking a step back financially, but go in there and understand your worth. Sometimes you have to take a step back to take a step forward. I don't think we'll ever, unfortunately, again, as an employee, will we ever get to those heights of what the post-COVID pay was. I hope so, to fall in line with what the cost of living is. But right now we're not. So make sure you're going in informed with what the market rate is, like what the job description entails. And then when you are negotiating, don't undersell yourself, but don't oversell yourself. Because if you are very expensive and then you can be sort of easily disposable if their work isn't up to scratch. So my advice is just reevaluate what it is your expectations are. Don't aim for something so high that it's going to outprice you against other candidates that equally as qualified as you, if not.
Okay. And I guess it's just about research, make sure you are doing your homework and, before you just don't be like back in the day, just blindly putting offers. I know you shared a couple different areas that we see job seekers tend to make a mistake, but if you have to give 3 most common mistakes job seekers are making right now, given, again, what would that be?
I would say what I see quite commonly is that they're applying to too many jobs, and when you call them, they don't know what job they applied for. So understand, like, keep a list and keep a tracking of who you're applying for. Like, understand that you've applied for X company. Understand what that, like, so when someone does call you, then oh yes, I applied for, let's say, Dell, and now they're calling you to discuss the job at Dell. Whereas some people are making massive mistakes. They're applying for everything. They'll get a call, and that's a turn off for recruiters and hiring managers. That, okay, hey, how's it going? Did you apply to, let's say, whatever job? And they say maybe, and you're like, okay, you're clearly not that engaged. So I would recommend maybe like keep track of what you're applying for. So when someone does call you, then obviously you know what it is. And if they do call you, I'd say, look, and they do start speaking about a job that you applied for, maybe hang up. Say you're busy. Say, look, hey, how's it going? I'm busy. Then go look and say, hey, can I call you back? Don't try and wing it on the phone. I know the excitement can take over, but don't try and wing it on the phone. Hang up, then come back. Because I understand a lot of people, especially new people coming to Canada, they want to get as much of their resumes, as much of themselves out there as much as they possibly can. And I completely understand that. So, but yeah, and then the other thing I would say is like when you are interviewing, I know we're obviously doing this via video now, but you can see how you're dressed and how I'm dressed. Like we're dressed for work. Don't come on wearing like a baseball hat backwards. Like make sure that you're dressed professionally. Like that you're coming on. A lot of people now are seeing it too casual, and that they're coming on to interviews. And the generation of hiring manager, yes, they are getting younger, but they are still hiring managers out there that show up to work. They only showed up to work in suits growing up, and that's all they've ever done. So make sure that you're dressed. You don't have to wear a suit. You can wear a shirt. Just make sure you're dressed appropriately for interviews. A lot of people are making those mistakes at the moment. And then again, like you mentioned, salary negotiations. People are outpricing themselves massively. Like they are sending their resumes in and they're not understanding what the market rate is paying because they have been doing a different job for a different amount of time and they just haven't been making money. So they need to realign what their expectations are. Make sure that when you are applying, that it's okay to ask for a bit more, but don't outprice yourself from a job that you want, essentially. So they would be my tips. Like show up for an interview dressed for work. That's the basic minimum.
Yeah, no, I agree with that because the other part of this thing is like you probably face it too. Now we have too many applicants for each and every role, so
100%.
so it's easier for us to disqualify people. I mean, it shouldn't be, but it just makes it a small mistake, and we're like, no, we have to look for someone else, and this includes like. Dressing up is nothing but showing effort that you really want this.
Exactly.
That's like, I woke up and I took a shower and I'm wearing a suit and all that stuff because I want to show Jamie that the role that he is, I really want to get in. So that's the intention behind it, But I completely agree with that.
And another thing as well, Saeed, would be like make sure people are like proofreading their resumes. Like I understand a lot of time English isn't their first language, and that's okay. But make sure you're proofreading your resume because especially if you're going into those functional project manager roles where like it requires you to be a strong communicator. And even now, like the days of being a software developer sitting behind a computer and just coding and not being able to interact with the business, those days are starting to slowly but surely move away. Like they want people that can interact with the business. And if you can interact with the business and be a strong communicator, that is perfect. So make sure your resume shows that. Proofread your resume, like communicate, whether it's punctuation, spelling mistakes, anything like that. Run it through an AI. Use
I was just gonna say that it's so easy now.
It can help. Do that. Like I'm not just make sure when you're in the interviews, then your communication skills are shown exactly the same as what's on your resume. So, but yeah, the spelling mistakes is another.
Yeah, no, I mean it's nowadays we don't even have an excuse. You have so many AI tools that you don't even need. You can't say I don't have time. You just copy paste and just polish this. What about the students? I see a lot of summer students struggling. Like even downstairs in my office, there's a cafe, and every other day I see a bunch of students going in, and there's just too many. I don't know what the situation is, but they're struggling to get the summer roles. And this type of, and most of them are newcomers as well, and mix of the and local. And Canadian people are also struggling, and then they have additional pool of international students, which is also making competition really fierce for local Canadians. So in this scenario, what are your tips to help them either get a role or start something entrepreneurship? What would you say? Like, what should they be doing to maximize this?
Yeah, of course. I think it depends what type of summer they want to lead. If they want a fun summer, then obviously go look for a role in like a bar or like something like that that can kind of give you that flexibility to go out with your friends. Because not to sound old, because I'm definitely not, but like the summers are the best times. Breaks in like from school and stuff like that, they're the best times of your life. So make sure that like you are having a good time if that's what you want. If you're struggling to find work and you still want to stay on the career path and the career train, and it's getting a bit kind of late in the tooth, try and again like make sure like you get, if people move here and we don't have LinkedIn, offer up your services if it as a work experience, and then get a weekend work. Like, because I understand it, the volume of students out there that do apply for, say, co-ops, they might have partnerships. These corporations might have partnerships with universities. They apply, they get in straight away. And then obviously with kind of us being immigrants and whatnot, we don't have the network to leverage, or say our parents' network as well, that say they're working for a company and you can go on there and be an office admin or whatever it might
Yeah.
be for the summer. We don't have that. So offer those services maybe up for free. Like go in and say, look, can I get work experience in here? Can I just do some sort of like just something to pass your time? It doesn't have to be every day. Show that you're eager. Show that you're willing to just do work and go above and beyond to get that job. But like in terms of like if you want to have a good summer, make sure then obviously you're applying for other jobs like bars, restaurants, stuff like that. You'll make good money doing that. Set you up nicely for the college year to focus on your studies. But if you want to stay in that career path, try and leverage your network. Try and leverage your friends' network and keep it like if you can apply for positions like without show that you're eager to get the kind of the pay, the like a reduced pay rate for yourself, whatever it might be. Because if you can, great.
Oh, perfect. Especially like unpaid roles. A lot of people I know, finance is a big part, but sometimes, in during these type of economic downturns, just I would say like what you're suggesting as well, if you can just get into an industry, if they're not even paying you, just get in, because when the things get better, you'll be the first in line to whatever openings or
Mm-hmm.
things. So that's some great points. In terms of, let's talk about your expertise and advice towards our industry peers who would be listening to this pod. What would you say is biggest challenge you face today in the technology talent market, and are you addressing it? Because back in the day, you had a lot of applicants in tech and this and that. I mean, there was a whole different ball game where people are asking absurd amount of money and this and that salaries. It was crazy times, and now it's a whole different ball game with
Yeah.
different things are going. So, how are you facing it and addressing this?
Yeah, like I think technology as a whole, I don't know if it's facing as much as a challenge. I think the technology industry is facing a challenge, the likes of Meta, Facebook, Google, all those. I think that industry has taken a bit of a hit in terms of like employment, but it's also sort of those organizations are just resizing to what they were pre-pandemic. So like I don't really, but yes, they've overemployed people, they've hired a lot of people, and now those people are now on the job market, which they have these fancy logos on their resumes, but also their idea of compensation is skewed. And I think that's what's happened, just kind of back to the previous question as well. But in terms of like facing the market at the moment, there's aspects of the market that are hotter than others, and cybersecurity and GRC is probably where it is at the moment. I don't know if your company was hit by it, but obviously Microsoft was down last week. There was obviously a worldwide breach in the UK as well. Like, but our company wasn't. As well, touch wood, we weren't actually impacted by it. So like people need to sort of invest in security. I think if there's a talent shortage out there for organizations and for people, like focus on security, go towards security, help your companies and your clients divide diversify their technology team. You'll see over the last couple of years, cyber sat within technology, like IT, cyber was IT, and now you'll start to see companies splitting them. And I've been encouraging a lot of organizations we work with to start setting up their own cybersecurity divisions. Because if it's just falling under IT, that IT, it's never, security isn't very rarely going to be the focus in that, especially if you're doing in-house development and there's revenue generating projects in there that are on the development side. But if there's security projects in there, they sometimes fall down because it might not be the shareholders or whoever might be his focus, because it's not revenue generating. It's revenue protecting, of course, but again, people want to make more money. So try and upskill in some element of cybersecurity. That would be a good advice to anyone out there. Understand cybersecurity, how it interacts with the business and how it interacts with the technology team as well. And then obviously with the client aspect from an organization's aspect, think about how you're going to structure that team. Think about how you want to structure your IT division. Do you want IT sitting as its own entity and cyber over here? I would recommend it. And in cyber, you can have governance, risk, and compliance. And within the governance, risk, compliance, obviously, you might even break that down further. You might have IT audit in there. On the cyber side, you might have IAM. So, like, is there going to be one head? So now you can see organizations splitting that out. But I recommend upskilling cybersecurity in any element that you find of interest to you.
Fantastic. And in terms of your recruitment strategies, how do you change them according to the job market and economic conditions? What changes, especially in the current market versus pre-COVID, what changes have you made to secure the top talent?
Yeah, to be quite honest with you, obviously the recruitment market does change with economic factors and stuff like that, but recruitment is always still about the people. It's always still about the people. When times are tough, I think during the post-pandemic time when every organization was just focused, every recruitment agency and every other organization from a client perspective, we were probably all just focused on working with the clients. We were like, okay, the client needs this, client needs this, client needs that. But at the end of the day, our business is about the candidate. If you don't have a good candidate, you're never going to fix any sort of problem with your client, and then you're going to lose that relationship anyway. So in terms of when the times are down and there's not a lot of businesses out there, make sure you're connecting with your candidates, making sure you're connecting with the people that are open to work and you just unfortunately don't have anything for them right now. But there might be another agency out there that does. So make sure you're connecting with these people. Make sure you're getting them out in front of your clients. You're kind of saying, okay, so he's on the market here, what do you think? It's just your expert opinion. Anything along the lines. But again, it's about people, so continue to partner with the candidates. The recruitment strategy was always sort of business development and getting clients in, clients. But in economic downturn, you need to think about your product, and your product is having good candidates. And right now, there's a lot of good candidates on the market that you can take to your clients. And then that will kind of help with the sort of uptake of your business as well.
Well, this is a good way to look at it, because most of people in the industry, they tend to, which is amazing because your client pay the company, so that it's natural to think that you would put the client first, which is amazing. We should, but candidates are also equally important in this building a strategy, because as you have said, it's at the end of the day, they're people. So if you build rapport with them, you build trust with them, and rather than going with, for them also, they have competition, right? They can go with 10, 15, 20 other firms, but if they like working with you, they will end up sticking long term and working with you. Now, personally, you have been promoted to director level within 4 years at Hayes, which is pretty impressive. I always wanted to ask you this since the start of this pod. So how did you what do you think how did you contribute, and what made you to secure this climb this ladder so quickly within the 4 years? What were some tips and tricks you can give other folks who are aspiring to get to such heights in their career?
Yeah, no, honestly, it's going to sound very cliche again. It's like an Oscar winning, when someone wins an Oscar, they thank their family, they thank friends, they thank everyone. They thank everyone probably but themselves. But honestly, the reality of it is, the people I had around me at the time when I was hired were absolutely brilliant, and the people I still have around me today, the mentorship and the leadership and the guidance that they've given me, and they've supported me as well, which is, I think, is probably the most important thing, from a kind of guidance in the right direction. We all have our bad days, we all have our good days, but the reality is you're only a one-man band, and in order to be successful in anything, you need to take people on the journey with you. And people, you kind of rely on others above you to take you on the same journey that you hope to take others on. So I've been lucky that I have been taken on a few journeys with a couple of senior people, and they've supported me and they've helped me progress, whether it's as a manager, a salesperson, or just even as a person. So, but yeah, I think that's helped me massively, the mentorship around me, and then the sort of kind of the fear of failure as well, I think has sort of helped me get to sort of kind of progress quickly through the ranks. The fear of failure and the not wanting to go home, I think that's what made me want to really just put the head down and kind of work. Because during the pandemic, we've seen a lot of people, immigrants,
Yeah.
getting sent home because, well, not sent home, having to go home because
Yeah.
they had no work and they couldn't afford to sustain their life and they have to go home. So the kind of driven me probably the fear of losing my job. I actually think it's quite beneficial to have a healthy fear for your job every day. Like I think sometimes complacency breeds sort of actions that aren't in the best action for yourself. Where like if you kind of strip that back and you're coming in, you're like, I need to keep this work, I need to keep this job, and I'm gonna work. So it's like a mentality of like a mixture between having good people around me and probably the healthy fear for my job, to be quite honest with you.
And it's interesting how you say fear of failure. I think it puts you out of the comfort zone. So day by day, you're probably like hitting those things
Yes.
that were helping you grow within your role. So you just want
Yeah.
to conquer new territory and just keep growing and being an asset to the company or your team or whatever, so that the reciprocal, as you give to them, they tend to give back, that type of thing, which
Exactly.
is amazing. And what are your biggest lessons so far, in being in a leadership role? And so far, what have you learned? What have you gained, that you can share with other leaders who might be listening to this?
Yeah, like the think for me was that in our industry, you kind of assume everyone's motivated the same, but then you quickly realize people are very different. What motivates me probably might not motivate you,
Yeah.
and remembering that with your team and remembering with that with people around you that these are not all the same. So find out what motivates individuals and find out how you kind of tap into that motivation and how you incentivize those people to be motivated by what they're doing. So I think that's a big thing for me is that I learned because I just assumed everyone would be motivated the same. But then another thing would be sort of like leading by example, I think is a massive one. I think a lot of leaders kind of get promoted quickly and they forget how they got promoted. Like what got you promoted was doing the job that your people are doing today. Show your people that you're doing that job. Show your people that you're working and you're in the trenches with them. You'll get their buy-in a lot easier. You'll get their buy-in a lot easier than instead of sitting in your ivory tower saying, do as I say, not as I do. So the best thing to do is get in the weeds with your people and support them when they need it and find out what motivates them. I think that's my biggest lesson is that like because we all have seen leaders in the past where the the leader is sitting on their ivory tower telling us what to do. I don't know how any of what my experience is. The people around me and me, we didn't really respond to that. But if you're in there and you're doing it and they do let you down and you're still kind of doing your bit, they're like, okay, well, if you can do it, I can do it. And it's a common goal and a common struggle when things are bad. So I think that's my biggest lesson is that being a leader.
Like you touched on motivation, like everyone has different set of. How do you figure that out? Like this person in my team, like I guess it's working over a long span of time. You figure that person's triggers and try to motivate them in that manner. Like what are some tips on that? Like sometimes I struggle with that with my team as well,
Yeah.
trying to figure out what gets you going. How can I make this person achieve X or Y, which can help me hit team goal and overall hit the company goal. Any tips on that you can share?
Well, I think the best tip I have is just ask them.
Mm.
Honestly, just say what motivates you, and you might find that some people might you might get told what they think you want to hear, but
Mm.
you'll soon find out. Like you'll soon find out because boy, you'll ask them, and then you'll start sort of kind of motivating in that way. Then you'll see that it's not really working. But if you continue to ask them, does that still motivate you? And why does that motivate you? I think the why behind everything is important. Like, why does, let's say, someone's motivated by finance? Why does money motivate you? And if they turn around and say, like, oh, well, I just like money, well, that's a valid answer for that person. But if you see that there's a deep seated thing there, like, oh, well, I grew up, I had no money, so now I really want to get money and I want to send money home to my family. Like, that's a real that's a
The
real
real.
sort of reason to be passionate about money. And then you'll find other people want to pat on the back and congratulations, and that's okay. But like,
Mm.
ask them. Like, I don't think managers and leaders we do enough asking. I
Mm.
don't think we ask
That's a
people.
good
Like,
one. Yeah.
you gotta just ask them. Just say, hey, how's it going? Like, how are you feeling today? Okay, what motivates you today, and why? Like, I think the why, again, just keep asking why, and you'll soon get to the root cause of what motivates people.
And you have to peel the onion layers and
Exactly.
keep,
There's layers below everything, and that comes with the rapport. The rapport building with your team is key, and that's when being in the trenches with them helps build that rapport and helps them open up a bit more, and you get more from them, and you get that understanding and the deep kind of emotional aspect of what it is that motivates them.
Oh, that's something I'm gonna take home and try to practice that. In terms of pivots, a lot of people do career pivots, and you have done pretty big couple times. I mean, as much as I read your life from military to coming to new country, from there not sure what to do, then getting into recruitment. Like each pivot point, it's pretty significant. If you look back, it's pretty big step for you. Even though at that point you were just, I guess, going with the flow and all that. But looking back, people who are trying to do similar career pivots and all that stuff, what advice would you give them to go and or not to go either way? Like if they're in a crossroads right now, what would you say?
I would say just do it. Like, don't sit and wait. Like, I think we all wait for this divine timing, and like that never comes. It's like, I'm sure when they were at home, they were asking friends to move to Canada with them, and their friends were saying, yes, I'll move to Canada with you. And then before you know it, your friend hasn't applied for his visa, he hasn't applied for this, or she hasn't applied for this. And I think we all wait for this divine timing that never comes. Like, if you feel that you're ready to make that pivot, just make that pivot. But don't half make the pivot. I think a lot of people be like half making a pivot. We're like a foot in either camp. Like, commit. If you think it's the right call for you, then do it. It's okay if it doesn't go out well. You still have the other career that you had back home or wherever it might be. Like, I took a 1-year career break from the military in case this didn't work out. Like, I'm not an idiot. There's always nice to have a contingency plan. But if you are doing it, go all in. Like, go all in, do it, invest yourself in it, immerse yourself in it, get stuck in, and like try to find your first response shouldn't always be no. I find a lot of people's first response is no, I can't do that, or no, I don't want to do that. Or think of, okay, yes, but why? That's, I think, the best way is, okay, so yes, I can do that, but why? And then if it's right for you, then the why will tell you why it's right for you. And then, whereas like if you just say no, you're cutting out a big aspect of everything, and then you're just not getting what you need. You're not getting anywhere. So think about the why behind it. Think about that pivot. Why do you want to pivot? Are you unhappy in your current role? Do you seek adventure? What is it? For me, it was adventure. I wanted to live in a different country. I wanted to see that. Not saying the army wasn't adventurous, but living in another country and experiencing another culture and experiencing another career, like there's no harm in that whatsoever. So I just say jump in 2-footed, everything you do, and then obviously keep an eye on the contingency plan in the background, but you should just commit.
Oh, great advice on that. And last question on this topic, a lot of buzz is going around AI, and which is, we all know there are some great benefits and whatnot. But I wanted to ask you specifically in recruitment, how do you see it affecting in HR and recruitment space? Do you think like it will take over recruiters' role down the line, or like what are your generic thoughts on AI and HR recruitment space?
Yeah, like, it's already started to slightly change how recruitment industry is going. Like, we've already seen some clients moving to an AI recruitment tool quite honestly, to little success. So the recruitment tool the AI recruitment tools haven't been working with the clients that we work with as well as, say, a recruiter would. And people might say, oh, he's a recruiter. Of course, he's going to say that. You're not wrong. But the reality of it is the recruitment, again, is about people. Like, I know McDonald's launched a fully automated restaurant in the US, like fully automated, like you didn't interact with one person. Them restaurants have now closed because people didn't want to interact with that. You're cutting out a massive demographic of people that want to work with people. That human interaction, we all probably crave now more than ever because we had 3 years of lockdown. So like, I do think AI will help recruiters, but I don't think it will ever eliminate the human aspect of it, because the reality is, like, the soft skills, you still need to be able to work with people. And I don't think an AI will be able to give us that soft skills. Like, if we were to do personality tests and stuff like that, they'd probably say something over here that my personality is, and say something that you are, and for all we know, we wouldn't be having this conversation because our
Yeah.
personalities didn't match up. So I think it will change it for the better, but I don't think you will ever eliminate that human element of any job, and that's not just recruitment. That's any job.
Yeah.
I don't think you'll be able to fully eliminate that, especially in a customer-facing position. People trust people.
So we're safe so for now.
For now.
So a little bit on personal reflection. Who has been most influential person for you in your career or life, and what did you learn from that person?
Yeah, like career, I'd have to say his name is Sean Byrne. He's our VP of Growth at Hayes.
Nice.
He's the person that hired me. He's the person that took a chance and hired me with no corporate experience and no desk experience. So he took a chance there. So, but what I've learned from him is honestly, he's probably the best problem solver I've ever met. Like he's taught me there's more than one way to skin a cat. Where sometimes everything's very tunnel vision. It's this is how you do it, and this is the only way you do it. Whereas Sean has taught me to sort of think outside the box, think of the problem, think of how you solve it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's just one of many things he's taught me. He's been very influential in my career and my career growth. Kind of back to when you asked about the sort of the how I've got the progression that I've had. I probably owe a lot to him and his kind of mentorship and his guidance over the last couple of years. He's definitely taught me a lot to be 100% transparent. But yeah, like it's again, like you find good people in every organization. Like you have to sort of like appreciate them and understand that like that's where you've kind of learned that. It's easy to kind of reflect and think, no, I done that. And yes, you did, but someone sort of equipped you with the tools, and you just went to build the house. So, it's always good to kind of recognize that.
Someone like passed the baton to you, and you,
Yes.
yeah, so you have to know that's whole life you're thankful to those people.
Mhm.
And on your LinkedIn, I saw one of the recommendation, post by Eric. I think he was ex team member,
Yeah.
and I just want to quote that because I think that's is really important for listeners to know, and especially job people who are looking for a job and struggling and all that stuff. So it says Jamie has been among the hardest working people I have worked with. Despite him being more junior than me, he was a constant source of inspiration, helping me push myself. There's no week that goes by that Jamie is on top of his activity board within short order. He was a top biller across Canada in his vertical, which is crazy to think, given your background, just getting into a role and get your hands dirty. So I wanted to ask you a lot of questions around it, but we need to wrap this up. So if you can share, how do you maintain such a high level of consistency, day in and day out? Especially this, I think I assume at this time you're in biz dev area where you were required to bring in sales for the company and whatnot. And I see a lot of salespeople struggle with that consistency. It's very you hear like 90% no's during your day to get one or two yeses when you're doing such an activity. So tell me your tips on that. How do you stay consistent? How did you develop this mindset to kind of like be on top of your things, especially this type of
Yeah, like just to add as well, like my role, I'm still in a business development role, so I'm still maintaining them relationships and actively bringing in business for the organization. So, but I think the key to it is like it's just making sure that you're in every day. Like if just be consistent, show up every single day. Like we all have our off days, we're all human at the end of the day. But you just need to get in there, work, and I don't think you can kind of get a substitution for hard work. You can work smart and smarter, of course you can, but I think if you're in there and you're enjoying what you're doing, you're working hard, the results will come. Like remaining consistent, I understand is difficult, but the mindset you need is that I think where I got it from is again that healthy fear for my job. Is that like you kind of have to look around and think of what's happening in the economy and how things are changing and how your friends are kind of you see some of your friends are being let go or you see some of your kind of your family are being let go back home, whatever it might be. Like you just have to remember like what do you want from this career? Like, do you want to just be another employee or do you want to sort of strive and try and help people and try and make change? And I think that's where I get the motivation to show up every day is to just make sure that I am showing up every day and I am trying to better my life and my career. And that kind of what keeps me motivated is the want to help others have a similar experience to what I had, and like the only way I know how to get that is by showing up and working. So I try and remain consistent with that. And that's what I try and lend to other people is that, like, if you're showing up, you're working, you're on time, you're doing what's asked of you, you're learning from everyone you interact with. Like, not just, oh, this is my manager, I'm only going to learn from them. Like, there's something you can learn from everyone, whether it's good or bad. And you take that and you kind of mesh it all together and you find out what works for you and you run with it. And then the thing that remains consistent is the work. You just got to be there and you got to work, and keeping that mentality is key. Is that, like, why are you here? Are you here to just kind of cash a check and go home? Or are you here to sort of like try and cash a bigger check and go home? And that's just the reality of it.
And I think it comes with clarity, right? Like you had such a clarity in your why that you were able to pull in day in and day out, which is hard to do, and I think a lot of people struggle with it. But once you get to that level where you're so clear on your vision of life, you know what it takes to do day in day out. I know I asked you a lot of tips on the career, so I'm gonna switch a little bit. Just give me this closing thoughts on any guiding principle or values you live by. Just generic rule of thumbs or anything that made you as a person and in your life and professionally, like some guiding principle that others should also adopt and be true to those to achieve successful careers.
I would say I'm not very overcritical of myself. Like, I think a lot of people are very overcritical and they really analyze what they've done wrong instead of what they've done right. So for me, it's like I don't really overthink what I've done wrong. Like, it's okay, how do I fix it? It's that sort of problem solving mentality that, like, okay, yes, this is a problem, but how do we go back and fix it? This is like thinking of how to resolve that problem that you messed up. Don't be overcritical on yourself. Don't bog down. Don't be sitting there thinking it's the end of the world, that nothing's fixed. Trust me, like, there's very little in a lot of careers, unless you're, again, dealing with higher stakes, the likes of, like, the military or like you're a doctor doing a surgery, stuff like that. Those are life threatening mistakes. But in sort of the majority of the corporate world, like, there's very few life threatening mistakes that you can make. So don't be overcritical of yourself on the mistakes you made, and then kind of back yourself. Believe that you can kind of achieve what you wanted to achieve. Don't sit back and wait for it. Try and go and get it. And again, that's what I'd give people advice is don't over criticize yourself. And another thing as well, a bit off topic in terms of voice, but when you're out of office, be out of office. So you need to people like some, like, it's a bit hypocritical of me saying that because, like, I would still work, but the benefit I can see from people that go out of office and be actively out of office, go out of office, like, relax. Don't be overcritical of yourself. I think a lot of this day and age people are always on the phones. We always have a phone. I'm sure my phone's around here somewhere. Like, we're always accessible by a phone. Put the phone away. Get a work phone. Put it away. Don't look at it. And then, honestly, don't overanalyze your mistakes. Like, think of how you fix them and think about, okay, how do I make it better? That's my best advice for me.
I think the best way to wrap this up is don't overthink the situation. Don't go in the, what you call it, analysis paralysis mode where you just go crazy, which is great. Well, thank you so much, Jamie, for your time. It's been an honor and a privilege for me to have you on our pod. I know people will learn tons from your insight and what you have shared with us. I assume the listeners can check you out on LinkedIn and follow I know you post a lot of good content around helping people in various, especially newcomer to Canada, your stories and your career journey. So I think you'll be open with people checking you out on LinkedIn. So to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to HITalks. Until next time, keep striving for success and craft your story. Thank you for having tuning